It's Tuesday evening. It's weather for Weather Geeks time, and we have all sorts of numbers to throw at you this evening. The coldest night in several years is unfolding across our area, even colder than last night, even by a fair margin. Colder than last night. The official number at the Youngstown Warren Airport this morning, 2 degrees below zero, -7 in New Philly, -1 in Pittsburgh. Now, these were the air temperatures. The wind chills, of course, were lower, even though there wasn't much wind, and there won't be much wind tonight. You just need a little bit of a breeze with temperatures like this to create some pretty nasty wind chill. So we did drop below zero as expected this morning at the airport. It's been since Christmas Eve of 2022 since we've been below zero. That's over 2 years, of course. We had that really harsh Arctic attack right at Christmas time in 2022. That was pretty much it for the winter as far as really cold weather. That winter was very warm. The winter that followed was very warm. This winter is shaped up to be a little bit different, although we've got still plenty of winter left. I'm getting some comments. No surprise. What happened to that mild winter forecast? And it's barely past halftime of winter, so we wouldn't call a football game early in the third quarter, and we certainly are not going to call the winter forecast a bust this early in the season. If you've been paying attention to my videos of late, I think February will end up being a different month. Really warm, I have my doubts about, but at least not nearly as cold as January. In the meantime, our scattered snow showers this afternoon, these were pretty lame, as it turns out, with some exceptions. We had some coatings of snow from West Point down towards Calcutta, East Liverpool, and over towards the Ohio border as well, mostly south of East Palestine. Heading over towards Beaver Creek State Park. Fresh coverings were pretty common down there. That was about it. Most of us didn't see much more than a few flurries this afternoon. The cold is the story from here on out. The snow flurry activity fading away this evening, and we have cold weather alerts, of course, still up. Now, we're splitting hairs here. It doesn't really matter if your location's under an extreme cold warning or a cold weather advisory. The impacts are about the same. The forecast is about the same across the region. This is just a matter of some criteria differences between the Cleveland National Weather Service Office and the Pittsburgh National Weather Service Office. The criteria needed for the issuance of an extreme cold warning, the numbers are a little bit, more modest in Cleveland's area as opposed to Pittsburgh's area. And overall, the Pittsburgh National Weather Service Office does not have quite as cold of a wind chill forecast as well tonight into tomorrow morning. That's why there's a difference. But for all intents and purposes, the forecast in our TV viewing area is the same. It's really, really cold. We're down to 5 above at the airport as of 7:13 p.m., already below zero in parts of northern Ohio and certainly out into Indiana and Michigan as well. Now, have you seen the pictures and video from the deep south? This storm really has delivered a historic event to southeastern Texas, especially southern Louisiana and Mississippi, and especially the panhandle of Florida. These locations have seen once in a generation type snowfall amounts, and even some state records are falling. The state record in Florida for snowfall totals from one individual event was 4 inches. That will almost certainly have been broken in many spots in the western panhandle of Florida. New Orleans has had several inches. There's a couple of spots out here in Louisiana that have had double-digit snowfall totals. And, of course, they don't have the infrastructure to contend with this, to deal with this far to the south in the United States. So it is a real, real mess. It's a good thing the national championship game, which, of course, the Buckeyes won last evening, was played last evening as opposed to this evening. Many people who flew or drove to Atlanta for last night's game hopefully got out of Dodge before the snow moved in today. Winter storm warning is out for Atlanta this evening. Winter storm warnings extend as far south as, again, northern Florida and as far north as the Outer Banks of North Carolina, Myrtle Beach area. It's a winter weather advisory once you're up towards Greenville and into Charlotte as well. It's a mess down here, even though the highest snowfall totals will be mostly south of Atlanta and mostly south and east of Charlotte. Even where there's relatively light amounts of snow, down here it just doesn't take much snow for there to be big, big problems. The ground is cold, the air is cold, and every flake's going to stick, and there's going to be certainly some issues over the next several hours. When it gets this kind of, when we see these kinds of temperatures and wind chills, when it gets this cold around here, it's all about the 3 Ps, right? It's people, pets, and pipes. We need to take care of each other, of course, but make sure, of course, we're taking care of the pets. No animals should be outdoors tonight, that is for sure. And, chances are, most people, if they need to wrap or insulate their pipes by this point, hopefully they've done it. But yeah, burst pipes can be an issue when it gets this cold for this long. It's not just the magnitude of the cold tonight specifically, we've been below 20 now for a couple of days, and we were below 0 last night. We're going to be way below 0 tonight. So make sure if you have exposed pipes that they are wrapped or otherwise insulated to help prevent the burst pipe problems. The wind chill. Now, there's not much wind tonight, but a 5-mile-per-hour breeze when you have a temperature of minus 12 can create a wind chill of minus 20 to minus 25, and I think that'll be pretty common as Wednesday gets underway. Sunshine will be replaced by clouds in the afternoon on Wednesday. We should be snow-free, though. This front won't be able to produce any precipitation. Our next chance for a little snow is on Thursday, but it won't be much. Probably a scattering of flurries Thursday afternoon. Shouldn't be a very big deal. In the wake of that front, maybe a couple of degrees colder on Friday, but this is just kind of a ho-hum forecast for the next several days. We've got cold to talk about, but not much snow. When we look at our computer modeling over the next week, this is a forecast for the next 7 days. Just about all of our medium range modeling is showing very little snowfall, taking us through the next week. We have this dry kind of northwest flow at the jet stream level, and until that changes, which I think it will change in February, but until it changes, we just don't see much of an influx of moisture, and the air mass is largely just dry and cold. And I think that'll be the case probably through most of the rest of the month. Now, it has been, of course, a cold January, but the winter season overall, not remarkably snowy. Now, we're right at about average at the Youngstown Warren Airport, something like 95% of average at that specific location. But we're below average in terms of snow. Alliance over to Sebring, Beloit, up towards Craig Beach, and even into the Austintown area as well. We're also below average from Hermitage and Sharon down towards New Wilmington. Grove City has seen less snow than average so far this winter, but we have seen above average snow in a place like Boardman and Poland and Columbiana and Elwood City and up towards Sandy Lake, Greenville, Kinsman, Mesopotamia, Bloomfield. Those are locations that have seen more snow than average, but not by a big margin so far this winter season. Now, when is the pattern going to start to evolve and change? Once we get past tomorrow, we're done with the worst of the cold, not only for this cold snap, but I suspect for the rest of the winter as well. And this is today's 8 to 14 day outlook, a lot of neutral coloring here. And I think this is the right idea to wrap up January and start February. Doesn't look that mild, but it also doesn't look that cold. I do think that the overall ideas I've been talking about for February in recent videos hold a lot of water. I'm not convinced it's going to be a real warm February compared to the average, but I think it'll be a distinct difference from January. January is probably going to go into the record books as a handful of degrees colder than average. After a somewhat warmer than average December, January is going to be a handful of degrees colder than the average. February probably goes back in the other direction, and at the very least, we could have numbers in February. As far as the departure from average, we could have numbers similar to what we had in December. Above average, but not by a huge margin. That's the way things look right now, but we'll keep talking about and analyzing the long-range forecasts in future editions of Weather for Weather Geeks. Thanks for watching on this Tuesday evening. Have a great rest of your night, and I will see you back here on Wednesday.